Alrighty, good evening. If you have just joined us, this is the Automobilista round 2, and the guys are just getting ready to go for their race start around the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Welcome to the stream, and K-Fan getting a great run off the line. Azure being left a little bit in the dust. Otten's going for a good move around the outside of turn 1. Looked like it was Darth Maul off in the background, and almost taking Azure out on the exit there. Otten's currently up into second. Azure in third, Zintax in fourth, Altman fifth, Darth Maul in sixth after that moment. Looks like Otten is putting up a robust defense against Azure right back there. Sorry for the lack of audio, that should now be fixed. And K-Fan out in front, 1.6 seconds up already, making good on his good strong launch off the line. We did see him, may have been a little bit of contact there for the three drivers there, Ottens, Azure and Zintax, all going through that chicane pretty much sideways onto the runoff. But yeah, so far so good for Ottens. K-Fan getting away, trying to get more of a gap between himself and the following cars. He did have a lot of pace in the quali session, so will he be able to carry that into the race? It does look so far like he is going to be able to. 35 laps though, it's a long time to try and hold on to that position, especially with the Zero making his way past Ottens, and that is going to be bad news for K-Fan. Azure and K-Fan were the two fighting at the start, at the top of the quali timing table, and so K-Fan would have preferred to see Azure held up behind Ottens for a little bit longer, but not this time, unfortunately. So Azure now released 3 seconds back from K-Fan, and let's see what he can do, as we can see a lot of dirt being thrown up there through the first chicane. Let's get the map back up, and yeah, so far so good. Azure trying to push as hard as he possibly can, and you can see these guys running through the tires quite hard. That tire smoke, yes, it looks it looks quite nice, but it's going to be, every time that happens, the guys are going to grit their teeth, as we see Ottens going quite far off the track there, holding onto the position. Zintax trying to stick to the track limits, and Otten's actually not getting a penalty or anything for that. I do believe the server might not have penalties enabled. I'm not sure how the penalties actually work, so we might need to test that a little bit just to try and avoid that sort of thing. But yeah, Otten's taking very much advantage of going off the track there and keeping the position from Zintax, who is behind. K-Fan out in front, 2 seconds up from Azure, but Azure is catching all the time. He was 3 seconds behind at the start or at the end of that last lap, and so Azure definitely pushing hard to try and catch back up to K-Fan, and doing quite well, as you can see how hard they're taking these curbs and how much grass is being thrown up. And you can see, like, every time that grass gets thrown up, that means a little bit less traction going through that corner, as we see Zintax going to the outside of Ottens on the outside of that chicane. DRS straight here, not should have DRS this lap, so I would assume there was a little bit of DRS there. Oh, massive contact between Ottens and Zintax. That is really unfortunate. Ottens now turning or getting off the racing line, waiting for Zintax to get back going. I think he is going to let Zintax through, but I think Zintax's car might actually have massive damage. We can see that car is not running the way that it normally should. That rear wing should be, well, it should have a plate there. Funny little drone. That there should be a plate on the back of that Ferrari, and you can see how difficult it is to drive that Ferrari after that contact with the wall, with the rear wing. Low damage, but as hard as that contact was, I don't think there was any avoiding damage in that situation. Out in front, K-Fan still keeping the lead over Azure, as we see Zintax coming into the pits, and he's probably going to be there for quite a while they repair the damage to that Ferrari. So Azure is currently still in second place. K-Fan actually holding a decent gap to the flying Ferrari, and it was showing us all how that Williams is able to perform. Rides the curb quite nicely there. The curbs in this game do look a little bit strange. Let's just have a look. Let's go bonnet cam and we'll see how this goes. Yeah, the sausage curbs on the inside look a little bit less violent then I would say their real life their real life versions are, and quite interesting to see that. This track obviously has been built incredibly well in this game, a little bit better than what we've seen in the Formula 1 games in the past, but it is interesting that that curb doesn't look as violent as it might be in real life. These curbs here, however, do look like they are throwing the cars around as much as they should. You can see they had a much more like sausage-shaped well, they are sausage curbs, so much more sausage-shaped curbing there, whereas there's ones that we saw earlier which it looked like they were more just... and contact between the two Alpha Tauris, and we have someone has retired. I think that was Altman who has retired after contact with his teammates. So contact between the two Alpha Tauris, and that has forced a retirement already. And that is very strange. That is very, very strange. It didn't look like the biggest contact, so not entirely sure what happened there. Zintax floating. Zintax appears to be floating his way around the course, so has officially gone in, had his car repaired, and the game has not put him back on the ground. So that's going to be quite interesting. I don't see any tire marks or anything like that either, so it almost looks like the game is actually picking up that he's not making contact with the ground, but that is certainly one of the more interesting things that I've seen in a sim. Oh, okay, there we go. We had some tire smoke there, so the game is calculating his physics correctly, but just not putting the car in the right place. And yeah, that looks like it's going to be until he goes into the pits again. That is quite funny. That's very definitely put a rather large smile on my face. But out in front, K-Fan currently still holding the lead over Azure, and there are those curbs that look a little bit less violent than I would expect, and the guys are absolutely abusing the track limits around this track. Which isn't entirely surprising, since it doesn't seem like the game is dishing out penalties like we would expect. So I think at some point, maybe tomorrow, I am going to need to run a session on the server just to try and figure out how to get a bunch of the things working properly. So Azure currently 2.4 seconds back. That is obviously a very, very, very variable amount. 1.7 seconds. This was where we saw earlier on, so about 1.5 seconds now. So Azure does look like he is making progress. K-Fan is holding on to the lead. Fastest lap of the race is currently sitting with Azure with that 113.917. Now let's see, is that... yeah, 113.876 is his fastest lap. Not entirely sure. That might be his last lap, so he's putting in some incredible times. Contact happened because of disconnect. That is, according to Altman, that would explain why he has dropped out as well. So really unfortunate there. Sorry to hear it. But yeah, that's one of those things. So yeah, Altman out of the lobby due to the disconnect. Not sure if he's going to be able to rejoin. But yeah, so K-Fan out in front, Azure in second, Darth Maul in third, Ottens in fourth, and Zintax at the back with his jet fighter. Just keeping those tires cool by not letting them contact the floor, and yeah, just trying to catch up after that contact, and what the contact and the repairs that he had to go through. Alpha Tauri things are not as weird as the Ferrari things. I mean, they forgot to even put their car back on the floor this time. So Azure currently going through and still trying to catch up to the back of K-Fan and getting closer and closer. You can see that car getting closer on every single lap, and that's going to be bad news for K-Fan, but also for the guys out in front. Zintax currently in 5th position, and is he a lap down? No, he's not a lap down. He's just not on the lead lap. So Ottens, for example, is on lap 7. He'll now cross, and you'll see Zintax's dot will probably turn blue. Or not. It doesn't turn blue. So it might actually be that they are a lap different. That's interesting, as we see Ottens murder some more grass. K-Fan coming out of the final corner. Incredible indeed. I just hope they manage to keep it turning. Yeah. No, I can't take it seriously. K-Fan out in front. Zero falling back a little bit this lap. So not having a great lap that last lap. 7/100ths of a second back. So that is the last lap time there in that timing screen on the left-hand side. And you can see the two out in front doing incredible lap times. Ottens not actually far off, a 1:15.141. So he should be catching up to the back of Darth Maul if he does manage to get the rhythm back. Obviously, that contact between himself and Zintax causing him to drop back. He did let the AlphaTauris through and then waited for Zintax to be able to get going again. Zintax, obviously, with that massive damage to the rear wing and the car in general, had to go and get that repaired. And that's what's put the two of them way back off the rest of the pack. So we are coming to the end of another lap. And let's see how K-Fan does this time as he navigates the final chicane. Comes down the start-finish straight, gets nicely over to what would be his left-hand side to open up the corner and get as far across to the right-hand side as possible for turn one. It does it quite nicely, a 1:14.655 there. So K-Fan starting to really push. Azure not pushing nearly as hard and is starting to fall back. So I wonder if Azure is maybe playing a little bit of a strategic game here. Tire wear will come into it. And the other possibility is maybe Azure has pushed a little bit too hard and his tires are starting to fall off. 10 laps in, I don't believe they should be completely deteriorated just yet, but that does very much depend on the setup as well. We have seen quite a bit of tire spin, and it does look like Azure is struggling to get that Ferrari through the corners as we see that chicane being cut once again. So Azure now coming through the final chicane, the final hairpin, and not too much wheel spin on the exit, so maybe taking a little bit easier, trying to hold onto his tires as K-Fan pushes a little bit harder, and you can see how much that gap has extended between the front two. Darth Maul still sitting in third position, not doing too badly. His lap times are a little bit off the pace though. Ottens in fourth, his lap times are not looking too bad. It does look like he is going to catch Darth Maul before the end of the race. He should catch him, and we should have a battle between the two of them towards the end of the race. And Zintax looks like his... It really does look so bad when they go over that patch of grass there, but it's really not as bad as it seems, as we see a marble doing all sorts of weird little break dances on the floor there. And it is quite cool that they have animated the marbles rather than just made them a texture on the floor or anything like that. But it does lead to the shadows not quite knowing where they need to be, and so when they do start spinning or being bumped or anything like that, it looks like a little bladed spinning top. Ooh, that's interesting. We didn't see this happen. Azure is now 25 seconds back from K-Fan, so at some point he's made a massive mistake. Either that or he's come into the pits and I didn't see it, which is unfortunate. 20... That could be a pit stop, depending on how quick the tires are changed in this game, which I'm not 100% sure if they are accurate to real life. But Azure might be on new tires, and that might be why he's so far back and why his last lap was so incredibly terrible. We'll see how he does on this lap as he comes through the final chicane and avoids the wall of champions there, gets onto the start-finish straight. Looks like he's taking a little bit more of an aggressive line down here, 2.1 seconds back from his fastest time. So yeah, this could be a result of a pit stop, and he might be trying to get those tires now back up into the temperature, as we see K-Fan coming up to the back of Zintax and Zintax still floating along, and Azure pitch. Okay, yeah, thank you for the confirmation. It's the only thing that really made sense, especially with the slow outlap as well. So yeah, thanks for the confirmation there. So currently K-Fan is still out in front, will need to pit at some point. 12 laps in, 23 laps to go. So still quite a while ago as we see Zintax struggling to get back to the floor still, and Kfan clattering over those curbs quite heavily. And we'll see what he does as far as time is concerned. 6:10 slower than his best lap, 1:14.761. So Darth Maul does look like he's falling back from Azure a little bit as far as... That's because there he is as he comes through into the screen. So yeah, definitely looks like he has fallen back a little bit as far as distance is concerned. We'll see Azure come across the line now. What does he get? He's still 1:14.2. So now he needs to push as hard as he possibly can. Kfan was a little way ahead when he came into the pit. So Azure has gone for the undercut. The undercut does work around here. Darth Maul came through with a 1:16.733, so he'll be falling back the whole time. So Kfan might actually have to respond now with Azure starting to make up that difference. So we can pretty much assume that the pit lane loss is probably around 20 to 23 seconds, 20 to 24 seconds rather. So we'll see how this goes. Does Kfan decide to come in this round? No, not yet. So maybe going for a very different pit strategy. Again, can't see what tires everyone is on from this screen. Okay, splits isn't coming up. Timing doesn't tell us what tires they're on. Overview also doesn't tell us what tires they're on. So a little unfortunate that we don't have that information. But yeah, one of those things. And Kfan currently going through the chicane quite nicely there. He is going to be pushing as hard as he can, but that last lap only a 1:14.856, and Azure once again a slightly quicker stop, a slightly quicker run with 1:14.0, so 0.8 of a second on that last lap. The undercut does look like it's going to work. As we see Darth Maul coming into the pits, I want to see how long it takes for these tires to be swapped out. And okay, so the game doesn't know how to handle these cars is what I'm learning, but yeah, so it does look like the pit stops are very short, so that would explain quite a lot. So Kfan out there, will he respond this lap, or is he going to try and keep these tires going as long as possible so that he can try and have fresher tires at the end of the race to try and take it to Azure? Let's go. Okay, onboard is not on board. Let's go cockpit. No, that looks like softs. Azure is also softs. Let's go roof. No, unfortunately not. Yeah, from what I can tell, because I'm a spectator, it doesn't actually get the information from the game on what tires people are on, whether the BRS is open or anything like that. Yeah, the game's engine is actually incredibly limited in a few very interesting ways. Yeah, that pit stop was incredible. And there is quite a delay. I'm sorry for the delay. I'm not just ignoring you until like 3 laps later. The delay between what's happening on the stream and when the chat is coming through and when I'm actually seeing it, yeah, basically the stream delay is quite bad. And I don't think there's anything I can do to fix it, unfortunately. I think it might just be a problem with the undersea cable that's causing it. So yeah, Kfan currently looks like Azure is now within the pit stop window, so he is likely to have to fight his way back at the end of the race to try and basically catch up to Azure and pass him on the fresher tires, which means Azure needs to push as hard as he can at the moment, but he does still need to keep an eye on the tires. Obviously 2 times tire wear for this race, and if he wears out his tires a little bit too early, he's going to end up a sitting duck at the end of the race. Currently, we are just a couple of laps short of halfway as we see more of the grass being destroyed. I imagine in real life that particular portion of grass would not be there anymore. There'd be a divot, but Yeah, Zero clattering across there, chowing up some more of the grass. Should be running down here nice and quickly, and you can see how much more planted this car looks than it was a little bit earlier. And I wonder if that is just a situation where the tire wear was quite high a little bit earlier, and with the clear air in front as well, will likely to be making Zero's life a little bit easier. And K-Fan's still going out, so not sure if he maybe went for a different tire strategy. The only thing I can think of is that he has gone for a different tire strategy than Azure. Azure may be going incredibly aggressive on the beginning. Ooh, that is not going to be good for that rear right tire. As we see the rear right tire spinning up incredibly long there and just failing to get traction. So I think K-Fan is starting to get to the end of his tires. Azure starting to push as hard as he can on those whatever tires he is running. And yeah, looks like this is going to be a pretty good race towards the end of the race itself. Darth Maul, Ottens, and Zintrax out back. Darth Maul in third, currently has pit. Ottens, I'm not sure if he has pit, although let's see where he is on the. Yeah, I think he might have come into the pits. And Zintax obviously had that pit stop that lifted him off the ground and never put him back. So Azure now 19 seconds the difference. K-Fan is really going to need to try and find something special to be able to get this right, as we see marbles all over the chicane there. And yeah, Azure is pushing incredibly hard to catch up to the back there. And if we look at the timings of best laps of the race, a 114.142 for K-Fan, whereas it's a 113.810 for Azure. And Azure is doing very stable laps. 113.84 for that last one, 114.186. So maybe deciding, okay, cool, he's within the pit window, and let's conserve some tires now for the battle at the end of the race. And not a bad idea there. Darth Maul 115.380, Ottens 115.141, and Zintax 115.698. So Ottens does look like he has a little bit more pace than Darth Maul in that car, but just not managing to find it consistently. K-Fan finally coming into the pits. I thought we might see this, so let's see how the Williams team does with this pit stop. Azure coming through on the pit straight, and we can see him taking the lead. No, that is Zintax, sorry, coming through now. Azure coming onto the pit straight now. Looks like the Williams team takes a little bit longer than what we've seen for other cars, but at least they released him with all four of his tires. The car crabbing a little bit coming out of the pits, but I think that is just a little bit of latency. Azure a little bit of a wheel spin on the exit of turn number 2, and K-Fan has dropped back so far. It's incredible how well that undercut worked, but Azure was pushing as hard as he possibly could to get that right, and K-Fan now has some work to do. 19 laps down. What is that? 16 laps to go, I do believe. Is it? It is. My math is correct for a change. Yes it is. So K-Fan now has some work to do. 16 laps in which to do it, so he should be fine. It will be interesting to see whether he does manage to extract the pace out of these new tires, and especially how much Zero's tires will drop off towards the end. So K-Fan currently in the Williams, heading down the back straight. It's difficult. It's not technically the back straight, because the back straight is probably that section between turns. I don't even know what turns those are, like 8 and 9. That first DRS zone that you come across if you're on a lap, will show you. I'll tell you now where it is, but I feel like the back straight would be that one there. So the straight coming up to the start finish straight, I think it might be called the Casino Straight, if I recall correctly. So I'll refer to it as that going forward. Sorry, just looking up the names of the corners because I know that a couple of them do actually have names. Oh. Okay, yes, so this is the Casino Straight. I was actually correct, I remembered nicely. There aren't too many names around this track. Obviously, there's the Casino Straight, the start-finish line, there's Wall of Champions, which is obviously, everyone knows the Wall of Champions. This little section is the Virage Senna, which Virage, I think, is... not entirely sure. They've used Virage du Casino and then Virage Senna, so not entirely sure what those are. And then this little section here is the Pont de la Concorde, which is the Concorde Bridge, or Bridge of Agreement, basically, which is a little bit of a weird name for a corner. And then the hairpin at the end is called the Pitts hairpin, or otherwise known as Le Pand. So... yeah, a little bit quite interesting, but yes. So the Pont de la Concorde goes on to what I would call the back straight, and then the Casino Straight is this one heading down to the final chicane where the Wall of Champions is located. So Azure out in front, still doing pretty well on those tires, a 113.534 on that last lap. K-Fan in second, 113.8 on that last lap, so maybe still trying to get the tires into the window, takes a very aggressive route through that chicane. Let's see how he does on this lap, a 113.738, faster than Azure's lap by about 0.3 of a second. So he is doing some work, he is trying to catch up to the back of that Ferrari, but it's going to be a push to try and get there. 16, no, that's not 16, that is, what is that? 13 seconds between Darth Maul and Ottens, and we've got about 10 seconds between Ottens and Syntax. So those guys might be able to start fighting towards the end of the race as well. So we'll keep an eye on their gaps just to keep things, see if we do get anything there. K-Fan currently trying to push as hard as he can. Azura is now back onto the back of his teammates. So this could be quite interesting to see. Oh, thank you. Yeah, so this could be quite interesting because obviously Azure is on the back of his teammate now. His teammate will theoretically get out of the way as soon as possible, but there will be a little bit of dirty air. On the other hand, there will be slipstreams as well. So especially down the Casino Straight and on the back straight as well. And well, there we go. We're not going to have to worry about that too much longer. But you can see that has actually had a pretty heavy impact on the lap times themselves. Azure getting 113.807, K-Fan getting 114.419. I think that may have been as a result of the slipstream. Ultimate, yeah, the pronunciations themselves, French is actually my second language, so a little bit of a lucky one there. So yeah, K-Fan currently pushing as hard as he can. Lap 23 of 35, 12 laps left to go. He is going to be looking at that lap count and thinking, where is he going to find this pace? He does have the Ferrari of Syntax ahead of him coming up soon. Will he manage to take advantage of the slipstream there? Will he get DRS? I'm not sure how this game gives DRS with a car ahead if it is lapped. I imagine it would still give DRS with just generally how DRS is supposed to work. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see, or well, not see, guess, since we can't see the rear wing being actuated. So let's see what the lap times say. Obviously still a little bit away from the car ahead, so wouldn't have gotten it this time, but 113.981, 0.3 of a second quicker than Azure. So Azure seems to be struggling a little bit. Possibly his tires are starting to go off as we expected, but 0.3, is that enough? It's oh, that was incredibly laggy there. Let's just have a look. 3/10 of a second isn't going to be enough. He needs to increase that quite substantially to be able to challenge Azure at the end. And I think Azure may have called it right with the strategy. I think the big difference between these two was definitely a strategy, and that Williams is being pushed a little bit too hard, I think, as we see it go sideways into the hairpin there, and really unfortunate there for K-Fan. So possibly has lost this race a little bit on the strategy. Interestingly though, Zintax is still going, and we do know that his tires are incredibly old. So his tires, obviously he put them on near the start of the race after that damage and the incident with Ottens. So Zintax might have a little bit of a problem with his tires coming towards the end of the race. I imagine he is running on the hard tires. I don't see any other way that he would be able to be making it even this far into the race. So will those tires get, and that is very clever by Zintax from a team point of view, getting out of the way as soon as possible through a section of the track where you can't really take advantage of it, and not giving K-Fan the slipstream down the DRS straight of the back straight. So yeah, a little bit of an interesting one there, or not an interesting one, it's a clever one there by Zintax to try and avoid helping his teammate's opponent, as K-Fan comes to the end of the second sector, 0.03 of a second faster than his previous time, but it does look like K-Fan is starting to struggle a little bit with the tires, as well as a little bit with latency. So unfortunate there for him, and as I said, not going to catch Azure at the rate that he was going, but Azure is coming up to the back of Ottens, and we did see Ottens having a couple of issues earlier on with awareness of the cars around him. So hopefully we don't have anything like that with the cars trying to lap. K-Fan once again faster on that lap than Azure, but not by enough, only 0.2 of a second, and barely that. So even is it even? It's not even that, so a little bit less than 0.2 of a second. So that's really unfortunate for K-Fan. I think this race's conclusion is basically foregone at this point. But Azure out in front, doing a good job with the strategy. Oh, massive puff of smoke there. That was incredibly interesting. Possibly a little bit of contact with the wall there by Azure. So I wonder if Azure's tires are starting to wear out. We did theorize that Azure's tires might start wearing towards the end of the race, and I wonder if we're starting to see that, because there was a massive puff of smoke. I think he did maybe make contact with the wall there, and that is really interesting. No random mechanical failures on this session, so we were not likely to see him blow up a turbo or anything like that either. But yeah, interesting to see. Zero looks like he's starting to put a little bit more rubber down through through a couple of spots, and K-Fan gets a great lap that time in comparison, and another clatter against the wall for Azure. I wonder if those tires are starting to give out, and he's starting to lose the traction that he's been relying on for the last few laps. 27 laps down. Oh, and Ottens has spun in the... was it Ottens? Yes, it was Ottens. Has spun there. K-Fan doing well to avoid him. Ottens just staying there until everyone is passed to avoid causing another incident. And he has now retired. Really unfortunate there. And... yeah, that's really unfortunate. Caught it there on stream with on board with Zero looking back, and really unfortunate. I think that may have just been on the throttle a little bit too quickly through the Pont de la Concorde, and yeah, that is one more guy out of the race. 27 laps down, 28 laps now as Zero comes to the line, and what is that? 7 laps to go. 8 laps to go, sorry, including the one that they're currently on. So this is lap 28, 27 laps down. The lap counter and I are always fighting. So Azure through on that last lap actually managed to do a really good lap. K-Fan did have to take that evasive maneuver, and I wonder if that's maybe what's dropped him down to the same time as Azure. K-Fan was looking quicker up until that point, so I think K-Fan did have to take evasive action around Ottens and that has allowed Azure to keep another lap. We can see Kevan is actually running a little bit quicker than Azure now, a 113.397 his best lap. Azure's is a 115.534. 113.534 rather. Darth Maul and Zintax close to each other, 115.380, 115.241. So Kfan and Azure still out in front, still pushing. Kfan is running a little bit quicker than Azure on average on these laps as we complete lap 28. Azure comes through with 114.390. Kfan will come through now and he gets a 113.622. He has definitely increased his pace. That is 0.7 of a second quicker on that lap. And 0.7 of a second with 7 laps to go. It's going to be close. If he can keep this up, we should see a last lap battle for the lead. So hopefully Kfan has some tires left under him in that Williams, because he is putting in some massive laps in comparison to Azure's runs. And Azure now needs to try and focus and keep things going as he takes an evasive action around Darth Maul going into the hairpin. That is going to be massive. That is a massive time loss there, I am sure. And Azure is going to be cursing coming across that AlphaTauri at that moment. So let's see, as he comes through the final chicane, well, how much time has he lost? 114.390 on that last lap. What will he get this time? He gets a 113.5. What? Azure putting in a massive lap, but that is not going to help him. He spins out going through turn number 1 and into turn 2. Kfan now ahead, and we did wonder about Azure's tires, and I think that there is the answer. Azure's tires are not looking good, and I think that may have been a result of those tires. Kfan now a 113.7, so a little bit slower on that last lap. But Azure may have pushed his tires just a little bit too hard, and now with 6 laps left to go, will this change the way that the front of this grid looks? Azure looks at the inside of the chicane and doesn't quite get it. Has to fall back a little bit as he cuts over the chicane there, and now heading down into the hairpin. Will he be able to keep up? He will get DRS down this straight, but I think Kfan might get DRS as well, with Darth Maul right there still in the AlphaTauri. So this is not great for Kfan with Azure right on top of him, but at the same time, are Azure's tires starting to go off as we see them fighting all the way down the casino straight, and Azure through on Kfan. A little bit of contact front to rear there as they go through the chicane, but both of them managed to get through. Both of them managed to keep it out of the wall of champions. Kfan going to the outside of turn 1. Azure tucking in behind, not fighting it, knowing he doesn't need to fight it. There are still 5 laps left to go in this race, and it has suddenly heated up. We only expected it to heat up in the final lap, but that mistake by Azure leading to these two coming entirely back together. Kfan now in first, Azure in second. Azure putting so much pressure on the Williams, and once again we are going to see a change for the lead as they come down the back straight, and easy change for the lead there. The DRS incredibly powerful. Obviously we can't see it on the cars, but no, it's there, and Azure once again through into first position. Kfan in second, but not giving up, not letting Azure get away in that Ferrari. A little bit deep on the brakes, and looked like a little bit of a rear lock up there, and he is going to push as hard as he can. Obviously DRS once again down the casino straight, and let's see what they can do. It looks like he hasn't lost contact with him despite that moment there, and will he go for it into the chicane? He does not. Stays behind. A little bit of contact, may have been a little bit of contact. Azure across the runoff, and I don't think he's going to give the position maybe because of that contact, which I think is fair enough. He was pushed off the track, but this battle raging on. 4 laps left to go as the two of them get the power down incredibly hard coming out of the second corner, and leading to that massive puff of smoke. Both of them chewing up the grass there, and yeah, so so much happening. Back straight once again. K-Fan 4/10ths back, not quite close enough to get around Azure going into there, but might be waiting for the casino straight. It's not necessarily the worst thing running behind another car around this track. Obviously there are all the chicanes which are very precise, and once again looking for the move into the hairpin, which I don't think is the best place to do it. Maybe was just trying to force Azure to go a little bit wide through the hairpin, which would give him a little bit of a better exit out of there, but it hasn't managed to do it. But it looks like he's going to be able to do it into the final chicane, and now we'll see the two of them change positions once again onto the start finish straight. DRS, I don't actually know who'll get DRS on the pit straight. It should technically be K-Fan if the track is accurately modeled as far as DRS is concerned, but Azure looked like he had a lot of extra pace there. I do believe that may have been because of the contact with the wall there, and so Azure out back in front after losing the position coming down the casino straight and into that final hairpin. You can see the guys touching the wall there on the outside of that second chicane pretty much consistently, and somehow these tires are still hanging on. Azure does have the older tires. K-Fan did wait incredibly long to go into the pits to get his tires swapped out, so he should have fresher tires, but I don't know if maybe he went for the wrong compound. He doesn't look like he has that grip advantage that I would absolutely expect him to have with these Pirelli tires. Alrighty, so K-Fan once again on the casino straight, right on the back of Azure, moves to the inside, decides against it, just putting himself in the mirrors of that Ferrari, and he is going to be pushing once again to try and cause Azure to either make a mistake or just lose a little bit of time through a section somewhere, forcing Azure to go defensive into turn one. You can see how much of a difference it makes, but K-Fan getting a little bit too optimistic, getting a little bit too close onto the back of that Ferrari, which means he would have lost a little bit of time there through turn two, just waiting for the Ferrari to get back onto the power after forcing him to go defensive. You can see Azure is driving incredibly defensively, trying to make that Ferrari as wide as possible, taking up as much of the track as possible. K-Fan is just trying to keep to his line, make sure that he keeps those tires exactly where he needs them to be. 2 laps left to go, and K-Fan is definitely looking like he's playing a little bit more of a strategic game. Will he go for that look at that move into the hairpin once again? It's not necessarily the best place to be, but this is not the worst time to be there. No, he doesn't look for the move, tries to maximize his run through there, does get a little bit compromised, may have thought that Azure was going to leave through the hairpin a little bit slower than he was. And yeah, absolutely, Williams for the win. Absolutely great to see. Would be nice if it was a McLaren, to be honest, but Williams was good as well. And I'm always happy to see something beating a Ferrari. But yeah, so K-Fan out in front for once again for the final lap of the race. Azure braking incredibly late. There are a little bit of latency issues there, and but no contact between the two of them. K-Fan out in front, Azure in second. Azure is probably playing a strategic game. And once again clatters against the wall, and you can see how much smoke it creates there. Luckily, these tires do seem to be the tires and the suspension do seem to be hanging on, as we see K-Fan coming out onto the back straight, and that is unfortunate. A little bit of wheel spin there, doesn't get as good an exit as he needed. Azure is still behind, going through there and keeping that car pointed in the right direction. K-Fan does look like he's pushing a little bit too hard. I wouldn't be surprised if he was saving ERS, absolutely, and I am pretty certain we're going to see a pass here. K-Fan not holding on the apex like I kind of would have expected him to do if he was pulling out every trick in the book, but it does look like he gets a great exit out of the hairpin. Azure is going to have to pass on the pit straight itself through the chicane. Will he manage to do it? Doesn't look like he's got the power, and it looks like K-Fan has managed to win this from basically that mistake by Azure going into the second corner, just throwing the car in a little bit too hard and spinning it out, opened the race up, and we had a great race for the last few laps. Well done to the two of them, K-Fan and Azure first and second, Darth Maul in third, and Artens in fourth, Zintax in fourth, sorry. Artens unfortunately crashing out, and yeah, great to see these guys getting through there, and well done to all four of them that did manage to finish. Ottman and Artens unfortunately crashing out through various means, and yeah, great race. It was actually quite a lot of fun, especially especially at the end there. Thank you to everyone who joined us in the chat, and I'm sure we'll see you next time.